Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to my channel. I am Roxora098, and on this channel we do all things Magic the Gathering, as well as I do a variety of content over at twitch.tv. Today we are going to be doing another Commander deck tech. This is a series that I've kind of gonna start doing more and more of. And yeah, we're just gonna take a look at a list that a friend of the channel, Professor Amateur, has sent in. And we're not gonna, play any games with it, but we're gonna take a look at the deck, see how it's constructed, analyze some of the different card choices, and just generally examine it. Before we get into that, if you guys enjoy my content, remember to subscribe as well as to leave a like and a comment to let me know that you enjoy this type of content or other content that you want to see more of in the future. All right, so let's get into the deck, and the title is a slightly convoluted deck. Oh wait, hold. My thing's a little in the way, but a slightly convoluted deck just so I can play Oko. Yeah. So before we get into looking at the deck, just gonna flat out tell you, the deck was essentially just a deck that he wanted to play Oko in. So here, let's take a look at Oko and let's kind of examine it here. So Oko is, if you don't know already, is a 1 blue-green for a 4 loyalty planeswalker. Its +2 is create a food token. Food token is the artifact that you pay 2 mana, tap it, sack it, and you gain 3 life. +1 is target artifact or creature loses all abilities and becomes a 3/3 elk. And its -5 is kind of a weird exchange where you exchange control of an artifact or creature with a 3 or lower power creature your opponent controls. So if you don't know about Oko, where have you been? No, I'm just kidding. So Oko was a very, very powerful card, both in standard, modern, legacy. It got banned in all of them or restricted. I don't even know. I think it's just restricted and then it's banned in legacy and everything. Pretty sure. Because it was just crazy. It's crazy how many decks were just shoving this card, 4 copies of this card into their deck. Just generally very good at playing long games, making foods, making 3/3s, getting lots of loyalty. You can even turn off your opponent's abilities, make giant creatures weaker, all of these different things. There's so many ways that you can use Oko, and just is generally a good card. So now let's take a look at the deck. The commanders, I'll tell you up front, are not as important because this is not a deck that is based solely around the planeswalkers. So it's using the partner commanders instead of any of the 4 mana planeswalkers in order to play 4 colors, and we'll kind of explain why. But yeah, so we have Ishai, Ojutai Dragon Speaker, the card that gets bigger when your opponents cast spells, and Tana, the dude that makes some saplings. So both of these allow you to kind of easily play 4 colors without having a useless card in your command zone, and giving you access to red and white as opposed to just blue and green, which lends more to Oko's strengths, I think. And so then we have Oko here, and now let's take a look at there is a primer provided that we can look at somewhat briefly. I'll kind of summarize. I've already kind of looked at this. We're not going to read through the whole thing, but essentially, yeah, this is a a combo deck. It is a blink deck, so it's like a value enter the battlefield style deck. So we have a bunch of combos. The main ones being Allurin and Cloudstone Curio. Those 2 cards are straight up busted. They do a lot of degenerate things, and you'll actually see the Cloudstone Curio is going to be mentioned many times here. So CC is Cloudstone Curio for short if you're reading this. The main combos here are, any creature that makes mana, in this case, Burning Tree Emissary and Dockside Extortionist, and any 3 mana creature with both of these cards make infinite mana, and then you could, do something to close out the game, either with Impact Tremors or Fireball, or you could do a whole bunch of other things. There's some creatures that draw cards, there's some, creatures that let you search your deck and things like that, so you'll be able to find all of your stuff pretty easily. So why play this deck? So this deck can sometimes feel lower power leveled, but it can also just like have insane draws, Spellseeker, Neoform, lots of tutor effects, and just a lot of ways to just like win the game out of nowhere. They mentioned the classic Felidar Saheeli Rai combo, cat combo as we say, where you use Saheeli's minus ability. Saheeli's not on here for some reason. Where you use Saheeli's minus ability to make a copy of Felidar Guardian, and then Felidar Guardian enters the battlefield and blinks Saheeli Rai, and because of the way the Planeswalker rule works, you are allowed to activate this card again because it's a fresh copy, or it's a fresh instance of the card. So yeah, so that is essentially the point of the deck here is to just be, you know, kind of a mid-range deck with lots of combo potential. So the classics are, right, you have Saheeli Rai, Felidar Guardian, we have the Alurin, Cloudstone Curio, Burning Tree, as we've mentioned. Dockside Extortionist works as well. Again, like Dockside, you'll see mentioned a lot here, as we've talked about. Again, I decided to leave it out. Professor Amateur wanted it in because it was a very powerful part of the deck. And you'll see that does kind of contribute to a little bit to the price of the deck. This is a little bit more expensive. I wouldn't say a little, a lot. This is about 4 times more money than my deck, I believe. So yeah, so then we have some cool Ghostly Flicker stuff. So there's the classic Archaeomancer, and then a creature that makes mana, and Ghostly Flicker. So, you know, Archaeomancer gets back an instant or sorcery. The classic one is Peregrine Drake. So you play Archaeomancer, you play Peregrine Drake, you untap your lands, you play Ghostly Flicker, you flicker both of your dudes, and you get back the Ghostly Flicker with the Archaeomancer, and then you untap 5 lands. And so this essentially makes infinite mana, as well as infinite enter the battlefield triggers as well. So that's why we have Impact Tremors here as another combo piece. So this is, by the way, another reason why Professor Amateur just really wanted to play red, was because that Impact Tremors being just an easy, you know, slam it like 2 mana card that combines with everything else to just win the game. Excuse me. And then, of course, by the way, going back and mentioning that again, the reason for Felidar Guardian, right? That's the reason why we're running white. So the reasons for adding the colors are very important. He's not just like throwing it, oh yeah, just like put this card in there, put these colors in there, like yeah, whatever. Like he's being very intentional with adding colors, adding cards, and not just doing so carelessly. So again, like this might look like, oh, this is just a general mid-range deck, but this has a lot of thought going into it, and a lot of deck building considerations. Let's see. So yeah, so we're talking about, by the way, I mentioned Cloud of Fairies. There are some cards in here that are just generally good ramp cards, like Wild Growth, that allow Cloud of Fairies to work as well. And Cloud of Fairies also just being like a good card. You know, cycling is kind of, you know, you don't end up cycling a lot, but just coming into play, untapping 2 lands, maybe being able to flicker it later to generate mana is kind of a good effect. And then I think the only other thing here is that the other replacement, there's 2 copies of Archaeomancer in the deck, really, and that's Eternal Witness. Both of these cards do the same thing in this instance, and so that's always another great thing, by the way, is like when good cards like Archaeomancer and Eternal Witness can just be turned into combo pieces. That's a really good thing, right? Because like you'd be happy to just play Eternal Witness, get back a removal spell, get back a good card, like or whatever, right? And then like later on, if you can use this as a combo piece, like that's really good. So that's the other thing that I've kind of seen from this deck is like, while like cards like Peregrine Drake, you know, are unique in that, you know, they are designed there to be combo pieces. A lot of these other cards are just like generally good cards. Even like Cloudstone Curio fits into this. Eternal Witness fits into this, right? Archaeomancer. Dockside Extortionist just fits right into this, obviously. Ghostly Flicker, right, as well. Like you could use Ghostly Flicker just as 3 mana, bounce Archaeomancer and another creature and get value that way, right? You don't have to go infinite with it. You can just do that and get value. And then of course the classic, you know, like Blink combo card is Deadeye Navigator. This card is, in my opinion, also busted. Like this card just combos with so much stuff. Again, the main one being Peregrine Drake. You play Peregrine Drake, you play Deadeye Navigator, you combo. Like it's I guess other way around. You play Deadeye Navigator, play Peregrine Drake, untap 5 lands, and then with Deadeye Navigator, you flicker it, and it makes infinite mana fairly easy. And again, the same kind of combos with Impact Tremors. And the same thing can work with. I guess this is actually a better combo for Cloud of Fairies, where this is a much easier combo. Where if you have Deadeye Navigator, Cloud of Fairies, and Back Tremors, like that's an easier curve, I guess, or not a sequence for comboing with Cloud of Fairies. Yeah. And then the last thing here for the different combos, we have Resto Angel, Felidar Guardian, Impact Tremors. So both of these cards, when they come into play, exile another permanent. I think Resto is just non-angel. So like you play the Felidar Guardian, you play Restoration Angel, and you can infinitely blink them in and out and in and out. And so that works really well with Impact Tremors, obviously. Yeah. And remember, Impact Tremors kills each opponent, right? It kills them all at once, which is pretty nice. The main card that I was actually asking him about, that I was kind of curious with, is Village Bellringer is a card that I saw, and I was like, okay, cool, there's Kiki Jiki in this deck. You'll actually note that there is no Kiki Jiki in this deck. And the reason why is just because they didn't want the deck to be too like combo spiky and you know, degenerate. And so really this is more of just a, like, it is still a combo card sometimes, but it can also just be just good with all of your mana dorks. The main one being we have Bloom Tender in here somewhere. Bloom Tender. So like with Bloom Tender it's pretty good. And that works well with like Cloudstone Curio and things like that. Where is that? Right, so it can work well with Lurin as well, and bounce it and combo. But this card is honestly one of the probably weakest cards in the deck in terms of combo. I think this is like one of the cards that I looked at and I was like, I maybe this should be something else, but I'm not even sure what. So yeah, I was having a talk about him with that. And then of course the elephant in the room, like again, I in my deck, you know, did not include Dockside Extortionist, and they decided to. It's like a $60 card, fairly expensive, but yeah, it just works really, really well in the deck. There's also plenty of cards like Imperial Recruiter and Recruiter of the Guard that can go search for it. So like being a searchable card that's like that powerful is like very, very good. And so yeah, while again, I might not enjoy playing against the card, and in my opinion, I think we both kind of agreed that the card should be banned. It's not healthy for gameplay. It's not healthy for, you know, many reasons. Yeah, you know, it's still just very good in the deck. Here, you know, there's a talk about the lands. The land base is fairly, you know, plain. There are no like fancy lands going on here, or like utility lands. It's pretty much just fetch lands and dual lands. Like, I don't know how to put it any other way. Because like there's nothing like Field of Ruin or like Strip Mine or Ghost Quarter or anything like that. You can't run Bajuka Bog, and like there's really just no reason to do any of that. So I like that choice as well. Like I think like a lot of 4-color mana bases get like very greedy, and he's very much like not, where he's just like, I'm just doing this. We have like a few basics here. He mentions like, again, like the I don't know why this is like a point of contention, but like Icefang Coatl, and like there's only a few Snowlands, but like this card is like whatever. It's just like 2 mana draw card, and like that's fine. Like you could say Elvish Visionary is just better. Actually no, because this has flying. Wait, never mind. Yeah, so I stand by that with them on this. Yeah. And yeah, so like I definitely agree that like, you know, not running 3 snow permanents, or not running as many snow stuff, and like not running tap lands and stuff like they mentioned Rime Falls. I definitely do agree with that. I see a lot of people running lots of tap lands. I do it as well, like in some of my decks, and I've tried to like get rid of them. I don't think there is a single one here. Like yes, it's fairly expensive. Like a lot of these cards are. That's the reason why this has where's the price tag? There we go. $1,000. So not cheap, but definitely needed if you want to play a 4-color deck and play a 4-color deck well. Yeah, so then again, otherwise when you're not comboing, we are essentially just playing good stuff. We have things like Ephemerate, Cloud Shift to use with Isochron Scepter, and things like Seedboard Muse, and then just good value stuff with Yorion and Thassa Deep Dweller, to just like blink stuff. Whoops. Right, so we have things like Dire Fleet, Daredevil. Again, we have Dockside Extortionist. You have things like Imperial Recruiter, Moonblessed Cleric to search for stuff. So a lot of these cards really do benefit from blinking. Solitude for interaction, Spellseeker to get some spells, Trophy Mage, and things like that. I don't think we have a lot of good stuff over here on this side. Like we have some Omen of the Sea. That's fine. Yeah, nothing. Panharmonicon is great with the rest of the deck, right? Muldrifter, that's a great one. Right, so just generally good cards. Archaeomancer, right? That are good. Yeah. So that is essentially what you're doing when you're not comboing, is you are playing Yorion, playing blink spells in order to generate value. We have the traditional card advantage with Rhystic Study and Sylvan Library. So that's always nice. And then here's what I also really like is that they've included some exclusions and explained why. Mystic Stake and Frilled Mystic were excluded because they're a little too expensive, and the deck doesn't really care about counterspells, I think. It's also not even really trying to interact that much. It's just trying to play good cards and assemble its pieces. So yeah. They mentioned like they left it out, and it works. It does work well with the deck, right? Like that they have Isochron and Cloud Shift stuff, but ultimately is just like too slow, and like assembling that isn't really what the deck wants. So I think again the deck would much rather be proactive and assemble combo pieces as opposed to sitting back and trying to do this Frilled Mystic like loop or whatever over and over. So they mentioned that Palacron is another card that like works really well in this style of deck, just untapping 7 mana. But it seems like that Dockside Extortionist is better. You play it for less mana, and in some cases it can combo much easier as opposed to this. I would generally agree with that. I think you could make this as an inclusion. I feel like this might be better than the Village Bellringer, maybe. But maybe not. I really don't know. I think this is like odd because like I definitely think like this is like such an easy card to combo with, and like when you're doing stuff with Yorion and like Felidar Guardian, like having a Palacron just there to like threaten is like pretty good. But I can certainly get behind it. Coiling Oracle is a common card that we see in Simic decks, and was essentially just saying Uro is better. I don't necessarily agree, because Uro doesn't stay on the battlefield, whereas Coiling Oracle is another card that can sit on the battlefield. You can use your Yorions, you can use your Ephemerates and stuff to provide value. I'm not saying Uro shouldn't be in the deck. It definitely should, but I think Coiling Oracle should also be somewhere. I was going to mention, like, that was the thing that I noticed in the deck, was that there's not a ton of card draw. There's good card gathering, I'd say. I would say this, like, there's a lot of tutors. Like, there is a lot of like Imperial Recruiters, Moonblessed Clerics, Recruiter of the Guard, Spellseeker, right? There's a lot of these types of Trophy Mage, right? But then there's not and Neoform is another one as well. Right, but then there's not a lot of stuff. Idyllic Tutor, sorry, and Fabricate, right? So there's a lot of tutors, but there's not a lot of just I draw lots of cards or I get lots of value and do things that way. And I think that if you're trying to not be as combo-y, that's something that the deck kind of needs. It's like I would like to see some kind of, oh, you do have Elvish Visionary in the deck. Okay. So like that's fine. Maybe this should just be Coiling Oracle. Yeah, I feel like Elvish Visionary should just be Coiling Oracle. I mean they do similar things, but this can sometimes ramp you, which is nice. but yeah, but then just also some additional effects like this, and maybe uh, something like that generates value, um, and not even necessarily cards. It could be tokens, could be creatures, like it could be things like that. Um, and then he mentions why he's not running black, why he's playing red as opposed to black. There are some notable cards, things like demonic tutor that could be run, things like cavern harpy for Lurin, right? So like it's essentially just making a deck building decision because again, remember, you do lose things like you lose fireball, you lose impact tremors, you lose burning tree emissary, you lose dockside extortionist. So like the deck would just look very different. And so like I like the way they handle this of like hey, like yes, there are some good cards that you could run at black. Like again, cavern harpy is the card that everybody knows from legacy, and it's just like, oh my gosh, like why aren't you running this card if you're running a Lurin? And so anyways, that's just why. And so he mentions like if you want to just run Ikra instead of Tana Timna, or sorry, Tana the Bloodsower, not Timna, then you could do so. But again, I think the deck would look very different. And so I'm not saying worse, I'm not saying better or worse, just saying those are two different decks and two different ways to build a similar style of deck, and that's okay. And I like the way they did that. And then it also mentions that you could, instead of playing Tana and what is the card? Ishai, you could instead play Thrasios and Bruce Tarl. And basically, Professor Amateur really likes Ishai as a card in a lot of the games that we've played, both like on and off stream. Ishai's gotten really big and has been a really good way to just like play it and threaten combat, and or just be a gigantic blocker. Um, and Tana is not as good, but it's just a nice card. Does kind of work well with, I guess it doesn't work as good with Neoform, does it? Neoform is one greater, so we'd get a 5-cost card in your deck, and I don't think there was many. Right? Neoform. Converted mana cost +1, yeah. So what could that get in this deck? It can get Yorion. It can get Seedborn Muse. It can get Solitude if you do Tana. So maybe that's fine. That doesn't seem as good as opposed to if you did Thrasios, you could get a 3-mana card. So that might be a reason if you like really want to get a 3-mana card instead. You could get Eternal Witness maybe. So anyways, I'm not trying to comment on that. They mentioned like, hey, you could just run it as well. And then the Timna Ikra as well works if you want to be the white, blue, black, green version. And then and then there's the mention of Kineos and Tiro of Miletus, which is the other commander that you could play in the 4 colors, and say, hey, why aren't you playing this? And his response is, we're not here to make friends. We're here to make elks. We're here to play Oko and make elks. And then the last part is, wait, where is Oko? This deck was supposed to be about Oko. You just talked about combo pieces and what's going on. So how does Oko, Thief of Crowns, factor in here? The answer is nowhere. You don't need to play Oko, but this is a deck that Oko fits well into. If you don't want to play Oko, you don't have to play Oko. But yeah, you could also just play it, generate value, and do a lot of work with it. And I think that Oko, like of decks that I've seen Oko in, this is probably one of the better ones. I forgot to mention Eladamri's Call for Tutors. This is probably the best one. This is probably the best tutor, one of the better tutors in the deck. Because it gets any creature as opposed to like Imperial Recruiter. So you could get Peregrine Drake, or you could get Dockside with your Eladamri's Call. So that's noteworthy. But yeah, Oko is just here. Again, it's not required, but it does work really well. just being there to you know, if someone summons a gigantic creature, bang, it's just an elk now, like no problem. And then, you know, if someone's pressuring you, sacking food to gain life is always nice. Turning your food into elk is always nice. So like just yeah, it's really well. You could -5 and steal mana dorks to use with Village Bellringer. So like there are like Oko might seem like, oh, it's just a random card in the deck, but it does generally fit with the deck's game plan, and I like that. So like this is kind of a funny thing of like, you know, the goal was to play Oko, just like build a deck so that I can put Oko in it. And based on the fact that that was Professor Amateur's goal, I think he achieved that pretty well. I think he built a cool deck. Yeah, I'm not going to go through the whole list here. I will link it down in the description. There are some other cards here. There's a funny note of like Kenrith's transformation, turning stuff into elks. There is like, you know, some counter spells here, some ramp, some interaction with prismatic ending. Really nothing to stand out. But yeah, I'll link his list. But yeah, otherwise that's the video. That's the deck. So sweet list. Again, if you guys enjoy the video, you guys like this stuff, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. And if you have a deck that you want me to review, feel free to post in the comments below, post it in my Discord, a link in the description, and I'll get to it when I get to it, I guess. You know, I don't have too many at the moment. Hopefully, you know, people enjoy and send me a bunch, and I'll have a ton of work to do, and that'll be exciting. But yeah, all right, that's gonna do it for me. I will see you guys for the next video.